Oopsie. I accidentally turned off my intro. Damn it. I thought I could click on this other thing before it ended. Oh well. We're here. We're here. Just a little bit early because I'm still trying to figure out these new features in StreamYard. They have these things called scenes that I haven't really been trying out, but instead of having to click on these different images, you can actually just click. I can change the background for each slide. I can just click it and it does what I want. It's so nice. And I thought if I clicked it, it wouldn't end my intro. It would just put this behind the intro, but I guess not. So thanks for being here. I hadn't really planned on covering this, but I am being very lazy today and procrastinating. So I said, why not just do this? I'm not sure how long the hearing will be, but hopefully not too long, because I do have another live scheduled for 4:30. We are going to talk about a case out of Texas where 6 people have tragically lost their lives because an 18-wheeler driver claims that he fell asleep at the wheel going however many miles per hour and ended up hitting traffic that had slowed for another accident. So I hope that you guys can be there, but if not, definitely check the replay. Hey, Josh B, thank you so much for being a member for 11 months. Almost a year. Thanks so much. I appreciate that. Ninja, thanks for being here. Lunatic is in the physical therapy office. Well, I hope you aren't there too long. Hey, Lily, thanks for being here. Sweet Misery. Queen Bella. Hey, yeah, 14 months. Thank you so much for your support. It is appreciated. And Josh B. Oh, geez, I'm on the wrong screen on my phone even. Thank you so much for gifting 5 memberships. So congratulations, Sweet Misery, Jingles, Opal, AP, and PW. Be sure to thank Josh B. Welcome to the Stoners. That was very kind of you, Josh. I appreciate that. So this is supposed to happen, begin at 1 p.m. So I do have the court page up. I know Law and Crime and I think Court TV are also streaming it, but I figured why not just go right to the main source of things, which is the court. Josh, you're sweet. Voice of gold. Speaking of court cases, while we're waiting, I've been watching. It is, let me see, it's out of Connecticut. And this kid, actually, I have the thing right here. Let me share this instead. We'll kind of just talk about this before the hearing starts for Kohberger. So this trial is going on. Oh, these freaking ads, I swear. Like, why do they have it drop down so far so that you can't even read the article? It's so frustrating. Give me 1 second. This is not doing what I wanted it to do. So the case is out of Connecticut. The boy was 16 at the time, and he was charged with stabbing another student during a fight gone wrong. And his bond was $2 million, and he met his bond. So it's being called the Preppy High School case. But I've been watching that on Law and Crime Trials. I'm only on day 2, and I think they're in their 2nd week. But if you're looking for something interesting, definitely check that out. The amount of evidence they've already presented in just the first day is ridiculous. And hey, AMAC, thank you so much for being here. I miss you and SoFlo. And Josh, thank you again. That's so sweet. So Bowie Girl, Pink Dagger, I actually just saw a post by yours earlier. Yorkshire Lass, Connie Branch, or Sister Karen, and Grammy of 8. Congratulations. Welcome to the Stoners. And be sure to thank Josh. Hey, Legally Blonde. Thanks for hanging out. Scottish Bluebell. Good to see ya. So we're just waiting for the proceedings to start. For those of you who may not be aware, Bryan Kohberger, who was accused of taking the lives of 4 university students in Moscow, Idaho, decided on Monday to accept a plea deal by the prosecution. If he pled guilty, he would face life in prison without parole as opposed to a potential death penalty. He would also no longer be able to appeal said decision. And initially I had said, oh, court will resume shortly. All right, so we're getting there. So let me get here. So when it does start, we will be ready to roll. And it is live playing. So once it starts, it will tell me to be quiet. I lost my train of thought. Oh, so my initial thought was, this is good. The families can move on. But then I saw an interview with Steve Gonsalves that said, we deserve to have a trial. We deserve him to face a jury of his peers. And I can also see that side of it too. The Chapin family and the Mogan family have both expressed that they're ready to move on and that they're okay with this. So we'll see what happens. I don't foresee the judge not accepting the plea deal, but I don't know. I don't know. Pookie, thanks for being here. Let's see, who else did I miss? Josh, somebody said the same thing yesterday. They think Diddy had something to do with Tupac and Biggie. I don't remember who it was, but somebody else in my chat yesterday said the same thing. I know, I hate having a brand account. Well, my account isn't a brand account, but my channel that I had created with Sinner is a brand account, and so we can't give free memberships and we can't get memberships. And because this channel is attached to that channel, I also cannot give memberships because I'm considered a brand account. I didn't even remember picking that I wanted to be one. So, oh well. Hey, Grandma Sherry, what's going on? Thanks for being here. Oh, wow. He offered $1 million. Wow. See, I didn't really follow the Diddy stuff. I just think I liked him back in the day when I was in high school, but just hearing what I've heard I did see the one video of Diddy in I think it was I don't know if it was a hotel or where his apartment was, but he dragged the one girl from her sweatshirt from the elevator. She was trying to leave and he was just being a complete jerk. I did see that and I'm like, that is nuts. That is nuts. Oh, okay, AMAC. He offered Keith D the $1 million. Keith's nephew is the one who shot Tupac, but he's dead now. Also, Keith never got the $1 million. Interesting. Yeah, see, I don't follow stuff like that very close. Fun fact, though, I also heard today that apparently I'm now paying someone else's phone bill, and because I'm paying their phone bill, I've put a tracking device on their phone. Because I was telling this person how to navigate around San Francisco. Ellie, it's called Google Maps and text messaging. That's how I was telling him where to go. But keep looking the way you are. Oh, Josh, I'm paying all your bills. I know. Amick, yeah, sure, I can pay your phone bill. Yeah, why not? Phone bill paying for everyone. I know, Queen. Oh my gosh, I only listened to part of it, but then I was like, all right, I might as well keep screen recording because now, I don't know, it's wacky. Wacky. Add it to the tab. Okay, will do. So, and I did see, back to Kohberger, I did see that his former professor also spoke to News Nation about Kohberger. So once the hearing is done, we'll take a look at that and kind of just discuss that, and then we'll call it a day. Well, not a day, because I have a live at 4:30, but I may, depending on how long this hearing is, I may push my live at 4:30 out a little bit, but we'll see. Hey, Cocoa Puff. You came at the right time. Hey, I'll write your name down. I'll write your name down on the list if you want me to pay your phone bill. Just know, if I pay your phone bill, that I'm going to have to put a tracking device on it. Because apparently when you pay someone else's phone bill, that's what happens according to Ellie. But she heard that the rumor was, well, the rumor's wrong, because if she had listened, she would have heard Sinner giving me, well, not me, but people in chat, the cross streets. So I just went to Google Maps, Ellie, put in the cross street, and then I was able to see what direction he should go. Like, I don't know, these people make up such like fantastical stories. It's like, you should have become a writer, not a YouTube panelist. Oh, right, you did do that, AMAC. That's right. I forgot about that. I'll have to check them out again, because I don't think I watched all of them. Oh, there you go, Grandma Sherry, Life 360. I actually pay for that for my whole family. So I guess I am the track queen. I don't know. So wild. I don't know, Josh B. I don't know. All right. Well, it is 1 minute till 1, so they should be hopefully starting soon. Hopefully they'll be starting soon. I do have it playing. It is live, just to make sure. I know. I mean, how do I afford paying all these bills on a teacher salary? I wonder, I don't know how many people you can actually have on your Life 360. I may be paying a lot of money for Life 360 if I want them and that many people on my Life 360. I mean, I could have just had Snapchat and added you to my Snap map. You know what I mean? That would have been free. See, I should have thought these things out. Hey, yeah. Yeah, flipping the script. Oh, right. 2 others were trying to help him too. I guess maybe we're all paying phone bills. I don't know. Oh, wow, AMAC, really? You downloaded Life 360 after the Karen retrial, and I just use it to see how many times I break the law driving. Oh my goodness. Next rumor will be Emmy owns part of Apple Life 360. Well, hopefully I'd be making more money if I owned part of it. I actually, quick story, the reason I downloaded Life 360 was, gosh, it had to have been 6 years ago. I'd have to look. But anyways, one of my students was murdered, and no one knew where she was. They found her phone on the side of the road, but they weren't aware of where she was. So she had I don't think it was an Apple Watch. I think it was a Fitbit. And so they were able to eventually figure out, when she passed. But they were talking about Life 360. If she had had Life 360 on her phone, they would have been able to locate her sooner than when they did, because it was about a week later is when they found her. So that's when I got Life 360, was because of that. Yeah, a guy she was seeing. He's a piece of shit. I'm actually gonna have to take a look at that, because he was supposed to, he had gone on trial for it. He was convicted, and then there was some mistake made and they overturned his conviction. I gotta look that up again. Okay, so let me just double check, because I'm assuming the court would have the feed going, but let me just make sure that, because I'm assuming that's where they get the feed from, is this court camera. Okay, and I see that others don't have it up yet either. They're waiting for the court. Okay, Court TV's screen is the same as mine, so perfect. So we're just waiting on court to begin. Hey, Green. Did I see his recent statement? No, I did not. Let's see. So it looks like I had seen the one yesterday. Is that the one you mean? I don't see any new one that... Oh, Facebook. Okay, so I did see something on Facebook. Oh, shoot. You know what? I don't think I can get to Facebook on my computer. Maybe I can. If I can remember my password for headstones. And unfortunately, I cannot remember my password. Let's see. Let me look up Stephen Calvis. Statement, Facebook. And he throws it in the judge's lap. It's one final plea, ironically. All right, I'm trying to see if someone else posted it. Oh, here we go. The Goncalves family page. Oh, 3 hours ago. Okay. And something's wrong with my... Okay, here it is. So while we're waiting for court, I'll just read this to you. So it says, right here, right now, we dig our heels into the earth and carve a line deep in the dirt. This ain't justice. No judge presided, no jury weighed the truth. Thompson robbed us of our day in court. No negotiations, no jury of our peers, not even the pretense of cooperation and fairness. Cowardly men, gutless men, they scatter like roaches when the battle closes in. And Thompson? He's retiring on this deal, his shadow slithering toward the exit, leaving only the stench of his betrayal. No spine, no shred of honor. He didn't have the basic decency, the plain human courage to face the families, to meet our eyes and ask, how do we make an offer that works? Instead, Thompson cut his deal with the devil. His negotiations didn't require anything other than a simple guilty plea, allowing him the leeway to blame the same people you are paid to protect. You betrayed us, Thompson. Your deal fails to shield the innocent. You could have stood tall and made damn sure the blame stayed where it belongs, not on us, not on the broken survivor still carrying the weight of your repeated failures. This is our courtroom now, this moment, this stand. Our voices rise to every American who will listen. We would have provided protection for the roommates, the best friends, the fallen vet. God rest his soul, in every soul affected in our shattered community. We would have carved our terms like sacred commandments, etched deep into unyielding granite, a testament to those we've lost and the justice they're owed. First, truth. Spill it. BK every sickening detail only the killer could know, the kind that twists your guts just to hear, but turns even a simpleton Kohberger against you. Second, you bear the guilt, all of it alone. You don't get to smear the survivors, the ones still waking to nightmares born of your reckless choices. Third, no cashing in on our grief, no books, no private interviews with your ex-professor. No one is allowed to study you because you're not special. You don't get to spit in our kids' graves by making this all about you. Only Hitler can step into this void, mend the wreckage Thompson left in Latah, so-called justice system. This is what murder victims' families' negotiation looks like. It's ugly, it's raw, it's wild. It's anything but easy. Yet you, Mr. Thompson, didn't even bother to negotiate with us. So this is all we have left. There is no more time for us to wait for you to make a stand, so we stand in your place. Kaylee Jade Gonzalez, we love you, baby. You deserved better than this justice system. Your soul is not Thompson bargaining chip. We do not accept his plea deal signed in your name. We're screaming for you as loud as we can. Kaylee Jade is better than this. This is our last shot. Judge Hitler, you are the only hope that our child murderer isn't granted control over his destiny and our children's names. You take control of this deal and make it right because now you own it. Gosh, that gave me chills. That is a provocative, powerful statement right there. And I will put if anyone wants to go and look at it for yourself, I will. There is the link there. Okay, still not started. Oh, and yesterday on their page, they shared the link to the United States Department of Justice. They are encouraging people to use the link to voice concerns in this matter. All right. I don't know what's going on with court. Yeah, thank you, Grain. Thank you. Yeah, a one way. And I tried to read it the way that I feel like he would have written it because he didn't use any punctuation for the most part. So I tried to do it the way that I saw him doing it. Let's see. And I'm assuming that they are outside the courthouse. Let's see if there's any live streams happening where, let's see, Steve. All right, so everybody's waiting for court. Yeah, I just checked Emily Baker. She's talking on screen. Law and crime is the same thing that I have. Um Hey Pookie, what do you mean what's going on? Is there a hitch? Oh, do you mean like why they're starting late? That I don't know. It could be anything really, I guess. Yeah, he did tear into the prosecutor. And I mean, I agree with him. Bill Thompson is like 70 years old. He wants to go out on a good note. Well, and I'm just speaking, this is my, my opinion. I feel like he wants to go out taking the easy way. He wants a win in his pocket on his way out. And to me, this isn't a win. It's not a win. I agree, Mac. He should have to adhere to the Son of Sam law, where he can't profit on any of it. Any monies made goes to the victims and their families. Do you know if the families who wanted to travel there today made it on time? That I don't know. And I'm trying, even like some of the oh, I'm gonna be quiet. Here we go.
All right, this is CR 0124316665. Defendant is present in custody with counsel, Ms. Thompson, Ms. Jennings, and pardon me, Ms. Taylor, Ms. Massoff, and Ms. Barlow. The state's present with Mr. Thompson, Mr. Horowitz, Ms. Jennings, and Mr. Nye is here as well. Am I miss anybody? I'm sorry.
Ms. Allen is here as well.
Ms.
Your
Allen
Honor.
is here as well. Very well, thank you. All right, we are here today to entertain a change of plea. Before I start, I want to address some issues of concern and otherwise. First, I appreciate everybody in attendance today being on their best behavior. Please, no outbursts or demonstrations. Any such conduct will result in immediate removal and may result in an inability to attend further court proceedings in this case. I want to point out that there have been calls by some for the public to contact me and my office in an attempt to influence my decision-making in this case. This has been extraordinarily disruptive for court staff and the ability for them to get work done, not only in this case, but in other cases where defendants are entitled to have their cases processed, and frankly, as important, if not more so, for victims to have their cases processed in those cases. It's also highly inappropriate. A court is not supposed to, and this court will never take into account public sentiment in making an opinion regarding its judicial decisions in cases. Courts should, and I always will, make decisions based on where the facts and the law lead me, period. I have not read any of the numerous messages nor listened to any of the numerous voicemails that have been sent to me and my staff. Those have all been forwarded to security and, where appropriate, to law enforcement. I ask that you not continue to mount such campaigns or to send me information like this, because again, it is not appropriate and frankly not something I would take into account when deciding a matter in a case like this. I also want people to understand some very basic concepts about the ideas of separation of powers, what the court's duties are, and what the duties and the rights of the executive, or in this case, the prosecuting attorney, is. The executive, the elected prosecutor, is the sole authority in deciding what charges to pursue, including whether, as well as what penalties to ask for, and what penalties to pursue, including the death penalty. This court cannot require the prosecutor to seek the death penalty, nor would it be appropriate for this court to attempt to do that. This court, in considering a plea agreement, if it were to reject this plea agreement, cannot force the state to seek the death penalty. My role and power in considering a plea agreement is extremely limited. My role is to ensure that the defendant's plea is given freely, voluntarily, and intelligently. If those things are met, I can only reject a plea, such as the one in this case, where I'm not being asked to agree to the sentence in advance. I can only reject it, for example, if the defendant does not meet or admit to all of the elements of the crime. That is, I can ensure what is called a factual basis to the plea. Finally, I want to offer my apologies to all the families, including the victims' families, the families of the defendant, for the short notice for today's hearing, and I'm sure what must have been the hurried efforts to get here. I, like most everyone else, learned of this plea agreement Monday afternoon and had no inkling of it beforehand. Prior to that time, I was under the belief that this case was proceeding to trial, as had been indicated, and my staff and I were busy continuing to work on preparations to have potentially 10,000 citizens of Ada County come to jury duty starting in mid-July, with the questionnaire process in mid-July. It was, once I learned of the defendant's decision to change his plea in this case, it was important that I take the plea as soon as possible because of the extraordinary administrative efforts that were otherwise attendant to the process of this getting this trial potentially underway on time, and including the significant process of bringing, again, potentially up to 10,000 jurors to come in and fill out juror questionnaires prior to the beginning of the voir dire process. And so it was important that we, if we're going to go down this road, do so expeditiously so that we can avoid those costs and expenses associated with that. Otherwise, if it was not going to result in a plea, or for some reason the plea were to fall through today, that we could continue diligently towards trial at the time specified. And so that obviously required that we act quickly. And so some folks may have not had the amount of time that we would otherwise allow for them to travel here. And so again, I apologize for that. I want to make people aware that during the hearing, if you are to leave the courtroom for any reason, you will not be readmitted during the hearing. Also, when we finish the hearing this morning, I ask that the public and media wait in their seats until the victims' families and the defendants' families and others are escorted out of the courtroom before you start to leave. Finally, I want to acknowledge the trial court administrator and her staff, the Ada County Sheriff, and the Ada County 4th District Marshal Service for the huge lift that they've accomplished in preparing for and orchestrating this hearing today, as well as to all the security attendant today that you see, and some of whom many of whom you don't see, with less than 48 hours notice. And so I appreciate the hard work that they've been doing. Frankly, some of them while they were on some vacation prior to the trial starting and had to call that short. And so I appreciate very much their professionalism and dedication. All right. That said, let's move to the business of today. I understand the state and the defense have reached a plea agreement in this case. For the record, I have a written plea agreement which indicates in sum, the defendant will plead guilty to all 5 counts in the indictment: burglary, felony, and first-degree murder, 4 counts. The state and the defendant stipulate, that is, that the defense is not free to argue for a lesser sentence at sentencing to the following. The defendant on the burglary charge will be sentenced to 10 years fixed, and that the defendant on counts 2 through 5, the 4 counts of first-degree homicide, on each count would receive a fixed life sentence, all 5 of those counts to run consecutive to one another. Defendant, as part of the plea agreement, waives his right to appeal, as well as his right to appeal the sentence and his right to seek leniency or reconsideration of the sentence under Idaho Criminal Rule 35. This is not a Rule 11 agreement, meaning the court is not bound by the plea agreement and could impose a different lawful sentence at sentencing. The stipulated agreement between the parties is the maximum on each count. So theoretically, the only thing the court could do would be a lesser sentence at sentencing. But the defendant is not free to ask the court to do so under the plea agreement. Are there any other material terms of the plea agreement that the parties would like to make? Obviously, the plea agreement, the written plea agreement will speak for itself and be part of the court record.
Not from the state, Your Honor. Thank you.
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, very well. All right. Ms. Taylor, have you had sufficient time to discuss this case and all of its ramifications with your client?
I have, Your Honor.
Have you discussed fully with him his rights, defenses, and possible consequences to him of the guilty plea?
Yes, Your Honor.
Have you been able to do all the discovery you feel necessary?
Yes, Your Honor.
And have you informed your client of the importance of providing the court truthful and accurate answers in taking this plea today?
I have.
Have you apprised your client of any and all offers and counter offers and answered his questions about those?
Yes,
Do you consent to the entry of the plea today?
I do.
All right, Mr. Kohberger, I need to ask you some questions this afternoon, or I guess it's this morning still. I do this to ensure that so that I am assured that you understand the nature of the charges to which I understand you're going to plead guilty, as well as the possible consequences to you of your guilty pleas. I want to make sure your plea is given voluntarily, and I want to make sure that you actually committed the crimes to which you're pleading guilty, because I don't want you to plead guilty to a crime you didn't commit. If you attempt to plead guilty today, but for some reason I don't accept your plea, then it is possible that your statements today could be used against you later at trial. Do you understand that?
Yes.
All right, thank you. And now, while you're standing, actually, why don't you take the oath from the clerk?
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you shall give in the matter not being before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
All right, and Mr. Kohberger, just to make it easier, you don't need to stand when you speak to me. I appreciate the sign of respect, but for convenience, you can remain seated, all right? Before I start asking you questions today, have you consumed substantive questions? Let me ask you, have you consumed any alcohol, drug, or other intoxicating substance that would impair your ability to understand or exercise reasonable judgment?
No.
You feel like you are thinking clearly today?
Yes.
All right, I want you to understand what the possible penalties are for each of the crimes to which I understand you're going to offer a guilty plea today. They include on count one, the burglary, a fine of up to $50,000 and a period of incarceration of up to 10 years in the state penitentiary. You may be required to pay restitution to any victims of the crime. Count 2, 3, 4, and 5 for first-degree murder. The consequences include a fine of up to $50,000, a period of incarceration of life in prison, which is a requirement of a sentence, that it be a life sentence with a mandatory minimum sentence of at least 10 years on each of those counts. In addition, you would be potentially responsible for a fine of up to $5,000 to each of the victims of your crime to be enforced in the form of a civil judgment to operate as additional punishment. This is in excess of any restitution or fines that the court could order. And again, you may be required to pay restitution to the victims of the crime. You would be required to provide, as to counts 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, a DNA sample and a right thumbprint impression, and potentially pay for analysis of those samples. You would lose any right to possess, purchase, or carry a firearm, the right to serve on jury duty, the right to hold public office, and the right to vote. Do you understand the charges and all those possible consequences?
Yes.
You've heard the plea agreement that I talked about today. Do you agree with that plea agreement?
Yes.
And do you understand the nature of the charges that you've been charged with that I understand you're going to plead guilty today to?
Yes.
As as I indicated, I'm not bound by the plea agreement, but the plea agreement is for the maximum on each count. Do you understand that I'm not bound by the plea agreement?
Yes.
Has anyone promised you that I would be lenient or easy on you if you pled guilty?
No.
Has anyone threatened you or anyone close to you to get you to plead guilty?
No.
Has anyone other than the state's agreements with respect to the plea agreement, has anyone promised you anything in exchange for your plea agreement?
No.
Has anyone told you to be untruthful in answering my questions today?
No.
Has anyone offered you a reward of any kind other than the plea agreement in order to get you to plead guilty today?
No.
Are you pleading guilty because you are guilty?
Yes.
And counsel, obviously there have been a number of motions filed to suppress evidence in this case. Other than those filed, are there any other motions that you felt were available with respect to Rule 12?
No, Your Honor.
And Mr. Kohberger, you understand that by entering the guilty plea in this case, you would be giving up your right to appeal any decision this court made, as well as your sentence.
Yes.
Have you had enough time to decide whether or not to plead guilty?
Yes.
Are you pleading guilty freely and voluntarily?
Yes.
Given your choices, do you believe it's in your best interest to plead guilty?
Yes.
Have you discussed fully the matter of pleading guilty with your attorney, and are you satisfied with the advice you've received?
Yes.
Has your attorney advised you to your side what your rights are, what your defenses may be, and what the possible consequences to you of your guilty plea are?
Yes.
Has your attorney done everything you've asked them to do?
Yes.
Are you satisfied with their representation of you?
Yes.
I have received a written guilty plea advisory questionnaire that is purported to be filled out by you. Did you fill that document out?
Yes.
Did you understand the questions that you answered in this document?
Yes.
And are the answers that are outlined in this document your answers?
Yes.
Are those answers truthful?
Yes.
Did you sign the document?
Yes.
And this document outlines many of the rights that you have in this case. Should you not plead guilty, did you understand those rights?
Yes.
They include a right to a jury trial. Do you understand that?
Yes.
They include a right to the presumption of innocence. Do you understand that?
Yes.
They have the right to require the state to prove your guilt as to each element beyond a reasonable doubt. Do you understand that?
Yes.
They include a right to confront your accusers and cross-examine witnesses presented by the state, including by utilizing the subpoena power of the court to accomplish that. Do you understand that?
Yes.
You understand you would have a privilege against self-incrimination and a right to remain silent, meaning you would not be compelled to testify if you did not wish to, had you not pled guilty.
Yes.
You understand you're giving privilege and those rights that I've just outlined by pleading guilty.
Yes.
All right, I want you to understand what the state would have had to have proven at trial had you, to the crimes that you're pleading guilty to, had you, if you didn't plead guilty. Let me find the document. Hang on a second here. All right. So as to count one burglary, the state would have to have proven that on or about November 13, 2022 in Latah County, Idaho, you unlawfully entered a residence located at 1122 King Road in Moscow, Idaho, with the intent to commit the felony crime of murder. As to count two, the state would have had to have proven that on or about that same date in Latah County, Idaho, you did willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation and malice aforethought, kill and murder Madison Mogan, a human being, by stabbing Madison Mogan, from which she died. As to count three, the state would have had to have proven that on that same date in Latah County, at that same address, you did willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation and malice aforethought, kill and murder Kaylee Gonzalez, a human being, by stabbing her, from which she died. As to count four, the state would have had to have proven that on or about that same date in Latah County, Idaho, you did willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation and malice aforethought, kill and murder Xana Kernodle, a human being, by stabbing her, from which she died. And then as to count five, also murder in the first degree, that on or about November 13th, 2022, in Latah County, Idaho, you did willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation and malice aforethought, kill and murder Ethan Chapin, a human being, by stabbing him, from which he died. Do you understand those things the state would have had to have proven?
Yes.
And do you understand that by pleading guilty, the state no longer has to prove those things because you're admitting those things are true?
Yes.
I want to also make for the record, the defendant has provided with the guilty plea advisory form a document entitled Written Factual Basis that purports to have the defendant's signature dated 1 July 2025. Did you sign that document?
Yes.
And did you agree with the written factual basis that is included there?
Yes.
Um, And then let me ask you, did you, on November 13th, 2022, enter the residence at 1122 King Road in Moscow, Idaho, with the intent to commit the felony crime of murder?
Yes.
Did you, on November 13th, 2022, in Latah County, state of Idaho, kill and murder Madison Mogan, a human being?
Yes.
And did you do that willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, and with premeditation and malice of forethought?
Yes.
Did you honor about that same date in Moscow, Idaho, kill and murder Kaylee Gonzalez, a human being?
Yes.
And did you do that willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, and with premeditation and malice of forethought?
Yes.
And did you, on that same date in Moscow, Idaho, kill and murder Xana Kernodle, a human being?
Yes.
And did you do that willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation and malice of forethought?
Yes.
And then on or about November 13th, 2022, again in Latah County, Idaho, did you kill and murder Ethan Chapin, a human being?
Yes.
Did you do that willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation and malice of forethought?
Yes.
I would ask the state at this time to provide its recitation of its factual basis had this case gone to trial.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, the organization of the recitation is different than what I think the court and the public may be familiar with from the probable cause affidavit and other documents. The state's evidence, as an overview, would show that back in March of 2022, when the defendant was residing in his parents' residence or was residing back in Pennsylvania, his home state, he purchased online a K-bar knife and sheath with an Amazon gift card that he had purchased shortly prior to the purchase of the knife, sheath, and sharpener. Jumping ahead, the end of June of that year, the defendant, Mr. Kohberger, moved from Pennsylvania to Pullman, Washington, which is right across the state line from Moscow, Idaho, for the purpose of pursuing a PhD in criminal justice at Washington State University. The state's evidence would indicate that beginning July 9th of 2022, Mr. Kohberger's phone began connecting to a cell tower that serves the area of the 1122 King Road residence in Moscow, Idaho. Now, I will acknowledge for the court and all present that there are many residences in that area. It's a dense population of mostly college-related occupants. Between July 9th of 2022 and November 7th, the defendant's phone connected to that particular tower during late night, early morning hours, 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. on approximately 23 times. Now, I will acknowledge also, we do not have evidence that the defendant had direct contact with 1122 or with residents of 1122, but we can put his phone in that area on those times. In the interim, on August 22nd of 2022, Latah County Sheriff's Deputy Darren Duke conducted a traffic stop in the early morning hour or late evening hours, about 11 p.m. On the west side of Moscow, on the Moscow-Pullman Road. This was a traffic stop of Mr. Kohberger's car, which turned out to be a 2015 white Hyundai Elantra with Pennsylvania plates. During the course of the traffic stop, Deputy Duke was able to obtain Mr. Kohberger's name, Bryan Kohberger, his phone number, and his address, which at that point was an apartment address in Pullman. We then move to the early morning hours of November 13th, 2022. The state's evidence would show that early morning hours on that day, Mr. Kohberger's phone left his Pullman residence, which is an apartment in kind of the central northwest part of Pullman. That phone was then subsequently turned off at approximately 2:54 a.m. and remained off until approximately 4:48 a.m. on Sunday, the 13th of November. The state's evidence would include a trial, video surveillance of a business on the Moscow-Pullman Highway, just across the state line from Moscow. It would show a vehicle matching the description of the defendant's Hyundai Elantra entering Moscow at approximately 3:02 a.m. Compiled surveillance that the investigators put together from businesses and residents then show the defendant's car, the white Elantra, as I've described, circling the 1122 King Road area, that neighborhood, starting around 3:30 or so in the morning. Comes into the immediate area of 1122 King Road, which is actually on a dead end, and then leaves several times. And approximately 4:05 that morning, the defense car had entered that area, was leaving, stopped at the intersection of King and Queen Road, did a U-turn, and the state's evidence would show that the defendant's car came back and parked behind and above the 1122 King Road residence. The state believes that its evidence would then show that the defendant entered the residence of 1122 through the kitchen sliding door on the back side of the residence, which is the side of the residence that would face the area above where the defendant's car was parked. Defendant entered the residence, went to the third floor, and with a knife, killed Madison Mogan and Kaylee Gonzalez. The defendant, as he left that room, for whatever reason, ended up leaving, or the sheath for a K-bar knife was left on the bed next to Madison Mogan's body. And I can jump ahead. That sheath was tested by the Idaho State Police Forensic Lab, and single source male DNA was found on the snap of that sheath, as well as blood from both Kaylee and Madison and other trace evidence. But it's important to note single source male DNA was on the snap of that sheath. The state's evidence would show that Xana Knodel was still awake at this time. In fact, had taken a DoorDash order not long before this started. Her room was not on the third floor. It was on the second floor on the west side. As the defendant was either coming down the stairs or leaving, he encountered Xana, and he ended up killing her, also with a large knife. Ethan Chapin, Xana's boyfriend, was asleep in their bedroom, in her bedroom, and the defendant killed him as well with a large fixed blade knife. Each victim suffered multiple wounds. I will state for the record that there is no evidence there was any sexual component or sexual assault on any of the victims. I want to make that clear so there's no speculation. There were two other roommates in the house, and they were already asleep. During the course of this, one of those roommates awoke, looked out her door not knowing what was going on, and saw the defendant, who was dressed in black with a black balaclava on, holding some sort of container in his hand. And she saw him leave the house through the direction of the kitchen where that sliding door is that I mentioned before. At approximately 4:20 that morning, so this would have been 15 minutes or so later, the defendant's car is seen on a surveillance camera for 1112 King Road, which is immediately next door to the west of 1122, leaving the area at a high rate of speed. And if the court were to see that, or anybody in this courtroom would see that, you can see the car almost loses control as it makes the corner, heads north, and then turns to go south on Walinta, which is one of the only ways to get out of that part of town. The evidence would show that following that, the defendant in his Elantra drove south of Moscow. We know that he drove on the back roads because there are surveillance cameras on the main highways, Highway 95, that would have picked up the defendant's car if he'd gone that route. And they did not show the defendant's car on that route during the time. So we know that he went through a variety of back roads in very rural, isolated part of Latah County. About 4:48 that morning, the defendant's phone comes back on. And the evidence will show that that phone was located south of Moscow, likely at a side road intersection with Highway 95. From there, the defendant's phone activity tracks heading back north towards Pullman, Washington, where the defendant lived. About 5:26, starting approximately 5:26, various surveillance cameras in Pullman, Washington pick up the defendant's vehicle as he enters Pullman from the south and heads north and slightly west towards his apartment, where he arrived at approximately 5:30 in the morning. Later that morning, Sunday, the 13th of November of 2022, Mr. Kohberger's phone returned to the area of King Road. We don't know exactly what he did, but it returned to that area. It's about 9 o'clock in the morning. It was there for about 10 minutes and then returned to his Pullman residence. About 9:30, the state's evidence will show, evidence taken from the defendant's phone, that he took a selfie of himself on his phone in what appears to be the bathroom of his Pullman apartment with a thumbs up. The defendant's phone then went to the Lewiston-Clarkston Valley, approximately 30 miles south of Moscow and Pullman. And the defendant is actually seen with his car at various businesses down there. This area is the confluence of the Clearwater River and the Snake River. Lewiston is Idaho's seaport. Large bodies of moving water down there. In addition to tracing the defendant's activities, as I've just outlined, on the 13th and leading up to the 13th, the state's evidence will show that following Sunday, November 13th, 2022, business records show that the defendant began searching for a K-bar knife and a K-bar knife sheath, as the state believes, to replace the one that was left at the scene of the murders. The evidence also will suggest that there were at least attempts by the defendant to delete or alter his purchase history on Amazon, where all these transactions had occurred. Later that week, the state's evidence will show that Mr. Kohberger went to what we would call DMV, motor vehicle licensing here in Idaho, in Pullman, to change his car registration from Pennsylvania to Washington. That's of note because Pennsylvania cars do not require a front license plate. The vehicles seen on the surveillance cameras of the defendant's car showed it didn't have a front license plate on it. At the time of the traffic stop by Deputy Duke in August, it was Pennsylvania plate, no front license plate. Mr. Kohberger proceeded to finish his semester of studies at Washington State University and returned to Pennsylvania for the holidays. Law enforcement at this point were aware of Mr. Kohberger, had been accessing information about him, were trying to find him. They located him in Pennsylvania, and they conducted what's called a trash pull. During the nighttime hours, agents of the FBI, who assisted immensely with this case, working with the sanitation department back in this neighborhood in Pennsylvania, took trash that had been set out on the street for collection, sent the contents of that from the Pennsylvania residence of the defendant's parents to the Idaho State Forensic Laboratory, where the lab experts there were able to identify DNA on a Q-tip as coming from the father of the person whose DNA was found on the knife sheath that was next to Madison Logan's body in the bed. Subsequently, an arrest warrant was issued here in Idaho, and a search warrant was issued in the state of Pennsylvania with the assistance not only of the FBI, but the Pennsylvania State Police. Mr. Kohberger was arrested at his parents' home to return to Idaho. Upon his return to Idaho, a DNA sample was taken from him, and it matched the DNA found on the knife sheath next to Maddie's body at the crime scene. I can tell the court, and the public, the weapon itself, the knife, has not yet been recovered. I can tell the court that the defendant's apartment in Pullman was searched, as well as his office. Spartan would be a kind characterization. There was virtually nothing there. Nothing of evidentiary value was found. And of course, we are now talking 6-8 weeks after the time of the killings. In Pennsylvania, the defendant's car was seized, and it was actually pretty much disassembled internally. And it also had been cleaned. There was a bucket of cleaner right beside it. Um, I think we can all look to our own cars, you know, in those compartments in the doors. You can try to keep them clean where you put stuff. There's always some degree of crud in there. They were spotless. Vince's car had been meticulously cleaned inside. And the state would present to the jury that that was part of the defendant's plan in covering up this. The defendant has studied crime. In fact, he did a detailed paper on crime scene processing when he was working on his pre-doctorate degrees, and he had that knowledge and skill. So, Your Honor, at the end, the state submits that the evidence that I've given just a quick overview of, and that to present in court would consume weeks, which the state is prepared to do and has been prepared to do, would show that as the defendant has just admitted and pleaded guilty on November 13th, 2022, excuse me, Mr. Kohberger entered the residence of 1122 King Road in Moscow, Idaho. He did that with the intent to kill. We will not represent that he intended to commit all of the murders that he did that night, but we know that that is what resulted, and that he then killed intentionally, willfully, deliberately, with premeditation, and with malice forethought, Manny Mogan, Kaylee Gonzalez, Ethan Chapin, and Santa Cruz. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, based on the state's proffer and importantly, based upon defendant's explicit admission to committing these crimes, the court finds there is a factual basis. Therefore, with respect to count 1, burglary, felony, how do you plead, Mr. Kohberger, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
As to count 2, murder in the first degree, as it relates to the murder of Madison Mogan, how do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
As to count 3, as it relates to murder in the first degree for the murder of Kaylee Gonzalez, how do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
As to count 4, the first degree murder of Xana Kernodle, a human being, how do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
As to count 5, the first degree murder of Ethan Chapin, a human being, how do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
Right. The court will find that the defendant understands the nature of the charges and each offense and the possible consequences to him of his guilty plea. Court finds that there is a factual basis for the plea and that finds the defendant believes the plea to be in his best interest. I find that the plea was given freely, voluntarily, and was intelligently made. I accept the plea. I direct that it be entered. I'll continue the matter for sentencing in this case. I think it was mentioned on the call Monday afternoon, the defense wishes to waive a pretrial investigation. Is that accurate?
Yes, Your Honor.
The state also?
Yes, Your Honor, the state does not believe pre-sentence investigation is needed, given the evidence that is available. We want to, though, make sure that all of the victims have the opportunity to make statements to the court at sentencing.
Absolutely. And certainly both the state and the defense may present whatever sentencing memorandum and other documents you wish me to consider. The victims will be given an opportunity to provide the statements that they wish to at sentencing. Do we need more than one full day for sentencing?
I do not believe so, Your Honor. We have numerous victims, and we have victims who share unique perspectives on this, and we want to make sure that they all have time to express their feelings to the court. But I believe that if we can start perhaps 8:30 or so in the morning, that we should be able to complete it all in one day.
Defense agree with that in terms of the time frame?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. So as it happens, we have some time reserved in this case in July and August. The week of July 22nd is available. I don't know if that's too soon for the parties or the next week, the week of August 4 is available. Any preference?
Your Honor, we're prepared as soon as the court wants to schedule it.
The state, I believe, would be prepared on the 22nd. We've told the victims' families that we're looking at approximately those dates.
All right. So Because of the plan to bring in so many jurors to fill out questionnaires, I had ordered that no other trials could take place in this courthouse the week of July 22nd. And so we will use that in terms of the sentencing date because of what I'm sure will be the significant interest of the media and the public and the logistics that will be required to make that happen. Without trials going, it'll be a lot easier to do that. So let's pick that week. Why don't we pick July 23rd with the idea that if for some reason we don't finish, we could continue into the 24th. We'll start at 9 in the morning. Does that give your team enough time, Sandra? 9 in the morning? All right. Any concerns with that date?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
No, sir.
All right. Any reason why I should not rescind the non-dissemination order at this time?
You're right. I think that given the history of this case, it would be best if that remained in place through sentencing. So we have time to make sure there's the ability to completely answer questions. That would be the state's preference and recommendation.
We'd have no objection for the order to remain in place through
All right,
sentencing.
I will, at this point, the idea to keep it until sentencing, which time it would be withdrawn in order to give the parties the space and time to prepare to meet what I'm sure will be the deluge of media requests. That's at least my preliminary decision at this point. We can always revisit if it seems to be, for some reason, I should. That said, obviously, I don't think the defendant, a bond was ever set for the defendant. Were it would be revoked. The prior order allowing him to come in civilian clothes is revoked, given his plea and no longer the presumption of innocence. And in fact, now the actual conviction for the crimes. He will continue to be held at the jail pending sentencing. Is there anything else today?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
I assume that the trial date will be vacated
trial
and those
is-
4 jurors will be released.
The trial will be vacated, and I'm sure that the jury commissioner will get word to those that receive their summons that they won't be required to attend. So
Thank you, Your Honor.
that said, again, if you would all please wait for the parties and the victims' families and others to leave the courtroom before you do, I would appreciate it. And with that, we're adjourned. All right, please.
Wow. All right. All right. Wow, they cut that off quick. So I wanted to try to find another feed that may have some, like, I don't want to say interviews, but they'll speak with the families after court. So I was looking to see, I have East Idaho News also on. I'm hoping that maybe they will have some, they'll be able to speak to some people outside the courtroom. So I'm going to actually put them on quickly and then just to see what they are saying.
He will spend the rest of his life in prison. He will not be able to appeal. That comes after a 1 hour, almost an hour hearing where the prosecutor laid out the timeline. In March of 2022, Kohberger purchased a K-bar knife and sheath with an Amazon gift card. In June of 2022, he moved to Pullman, Washington from Pennsylvania to obtain a PhD in criminal justice. On July 9th of 2022, his phone hit a cell tower near the home on King Road. These murders happened in November. 4 months earlier, his phone hit a cell tower near the residence. And between July 9th and November 7th, his phone connected late at night to that cell phone tower between 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. at least 23 times. The prosecutor, Bill Thomas, was clear that that phone never actually, they don't know for sure if there was direct evidence tying it to the actual house, but it was in the area of the house.
Wow.
I'm just monitoring outside the courthouse
Oh,
here.
good. I
In
hope
just
they
a
have
moment, I'll let you
some.
know if any of the families come out and address the media, and if so, we will cut to that.
Perfect. That's what I wanted
On
to see.
August 22nd, Kohberger was stopped on a traffic stop around 11 p.m. He had on Pennsylvania plates on his vehicle. Police were able to get his name, phone number, and address, along with information about his car. November 13th of 2022, his phone left his Pullman residence. It then was turned off until 4:48 a.m. The vehicle that he was in was spotted in the area around 3:30 a.m.
Hmm.
It went to the home, the King Road home, according to surveillance phone footage, very fast. In fact, the police said that it left at a high rate of speed and almost lost control. The surveillance footage showed. Bill Thomas, the prosecutor, said the defendant went into the house through a kitchen sliding door, went to the third floor where he killed Madison and Kaylee with a knife. As he left, he did not take the sheath with him, the knife sheath, left it on the bed with a single source of DNA. On his way out, Xana Kernodle was awaiting a DoorDash order. He came down the stairs. He killed her. He then went and killed Ethan, who was asleep. Multiple
Ugh.
wounds on all of the victims. There was no sexual component to any of them. There were two other roommates in the home. One woke up, saw Kohberger leave out of the kitchen door. At 4:20 a.m., Kohberger can be seen on camera leaving the King Road home at a high rate of speed. He went out of the area through back roads, did not take highways, as cameras on the highways would have picked him up. There was no spottage of him in the vehicle leaving, so he went through on back roads. But then at 4:48 a.m., his phone turned on south of Moscow on Highway 95. 5:26, the camera was spotted, and a cell phone spotted the next day. The phone returned near the house. He took a selfie on the phone in the bathroom with a thumbs up. He looked like a ghost. November 13th, he searched on his computer for K-bar knife sheath, and attempted to delete or alter the history of his Amazon account.
And when I heard that, I hadn't heard that before, that he had tried to alter his Amazon account, which I'm curious. I'm guessing he wasn't able to do it because they said he tried to. But that was interesting to me. So
The plates on his car were then changed, and it's notable because in Pennsylvania, you don't have to have a front plate. In Washington, you do. He got Washington plates. And in the footage of the vehicle at the home, there was no front plate. DNA was found on a Q-tip belonging to his father at the Washington house in the garbage. It matched DNA
wow, a
when
Q-tip.
collected from Bryan Kohberger when he was brought here to Idaho. The DNA on the Q-tip matched the DNA from the knife sheath. A weapon was never found. His apartment was searched. His office was searched. There was nothing of evidentiary value found there.
Wow.
His vehicle, the prosecutor said, looked like it had been disassembled internally. It was spotless. In fact, there was a bucket of cleaner right there, meticulously cleaned, even in the door cracks, you know, where you store a tissue or wrappers or something. Nothing was there. And the prosecutor said they believe that this was part of Kohberger's plan to clean up the mess,
Of course.
to clean up the crime scene. He had wrote a detailed paper about crime scene processing and knew what to do. The prosecutor said Kohberger may not have intended to commit all of the murders, but that's what he did. Kohberger then stood, and as the judge read each of the charges, he said guilty guilty, 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 guilty.
Mm.
He accepted the plea agreement. There will be no pre-sentence investigation. The defense waived it. The prosecutor was fine with that. And sentencing will happen fairly quickly. The time had been set aside for a trial this month, and they were going to go through jury questionnaires and things like that to pick a jury, but that will not be happening because Kohberger will appear to be sentenced. There will be a sentencing hearing that will be one day. It could spill into the 24th. It's interesting because the sentencing will happen the same day that Lori Vallow Daybell is being sentenced.
Wow. Busy day in Idaho.
Let me take you outside the courthouse. We may not have a shot here, and if we don't, I'll cut away and come back. Tonight, we may not have a shot here, and if we don't, I'll cut away and come back. Tonight, we're going to have a full courtroom insider. Join me tonight, 7 o'clock Mountain Time. We will have Howard Bloom here. He has written a book about this case. He is very well educated on the case. He knows the ins and outs of this. He has sources, deep sources, and he will be here tonight.
Okay, I'm not circulating, am I? Or is it him? Can y'all hear me? My internet looks like it's okay, but he's circulating. Let me try refreshing his page.
Knows
There we go.
the ins and outs of this. He has sources, deep sources, and he will be here tonight.
Oh no, it's his that's not working correctly. Okay, so let me see if I can find. I'm gonna see if I can't find another feed that possibly is showing. I thought East Idaho News would be my best bet. Okay, it is him. Okay, so it looks like he ended. Oh, here we go. I found a different one. Here we go.
Plea deal that he was pleading guilty to these grisly murders, that this plea was being given freely, voluntarily, and without coercion. And again, he confirmed all that. The only words that he said in court today were yes, no, and guilty a number of times as he was answering the judge's questions. And Judge Hippler there decided that, yes, Kohberger understood the charges against him, what he was agreeing to. And so now he is guilty and facing those consecutive life sentences.
Yes. All right, Andrea, thank you so much for your input, for your coverage today. We have a lot more coming up throughout the day here on Channel 7. But once again, this is over. Bryan Kohberger has pleaded guilty to killing those 4 University of Idaho college students.
Well, I
He
guess
says
they're not going to have
he,
much either.
yes, is the one who did it. We have more on our website right now, ktvb.com. You can watch what you missed on KTVB Plus. You can also, it looks like we might have some people coming out that might want to speak. So I think we're going to continue our coverage.
Yes, please.
Maybe it just took them a while to come on out and make that decision.
There are some people congregating there. We'll wait to see if we can hear from them. As you said, as the judge said, the gag order is in place until sentencing on July 23rd.
I missed that
Looks
part
like
about
we have
the
not
gag
seen
order.
all of the family members yet. We saw Steve Gonzalez at the front of the courtroom and then walking away from the courtroom. He was not inside at the time, had done sort of a protest by not going inside. He was not happy with this plea deal. though according to the judge and the prosecutor, will be given an opportunity to give a statement during sentencing.
The family obviously very furious, the Gonzalez family. We did hear from Steve Gonzalez, Kaylee Gonzalez's dad, before the hearing. Let's go ahead and let you listen in on what he had to say.
Surviving victims and make this person say that they had nothing to do with it. He did it solely, he did it all on his own, and nobody else was responsible. And then we won't keep having these supporters always saying that he got set up. We know what he's planning on doing. Somebody died, a vet died, and he's going to try to say that, put the blame on that person. So he's not going to take accountability.
All right, so there's that soundbite there. He was not in the courtroom for the plea agreement. He did join his wife, Christy Gonzalez, afterward there on the steps of the courthouse, and then they left, and with no comment, as far as we know. He could have spoken to some photographers on the way out. We're not quite sure yet, but we are waiting. There's a little stand there with a bunch of microphones.
All right, so I am going to just pause that quickly because I do want to show the interview. I don't want to say interview, but News Nation spoke with Bryan Kohberger's professor, and I haven't watched it yet, so I'll be watching it with you. Shoot, and now I don't know where it is. Let's see. Here it is. It's about 13 minutes long, so we'll take a look at this and then we'll check back in with the local news. I'm just going to speed him up a little bit.
Though, and we're joined exclusively by her, renowned forensic psychologist, Dr. Catherine Ramsland. As you may know, she was Bryan Kohberger's professor and advisor at DeSales University in Pennsylvania. She has not spoken publicly about Bryan Kohberger until now. She's been on this show talking about other cases, but she's been very, very careful not to talk about Kohberger because of the trial, because she was going to be a witness at the trial, and she now feels comfortable to open up to us. And we've got so many questions, Dr. Ramsland, that I've got so many questions I wanted to ask you for so long.
And what's interesting is that at this time, the judge hadn't accepted the plea agreement. So if the judge hadn't, which I was not expecting him not to, what would have happened? You would have been talking before you should have been.
I want to start with, how did you first meet Bryan Kohberger? What classes of yours was he in?
Okay, I want to be just clear that I'm still within the FERPA limitations. That,
okay, so she did say that.
Students and student information, so I will talk within that. I met him in the fall of 2018 when he came to DeSales University. He had an associate's degree and he was going to get into our 4-year program as a psychology major. He selected the forensic track, which made him an advisee for me because I managed the forensic track. And he was also in my class that semester.
And Dr. Ramsland talks about FERPA. I should have mentioned that. There's a law, it's a federal law, I believe, that she is not allowed to talk about certain aspects of a student, their grades, certain parts of their academic life. It's almost like a HIPAA. So she's going to tell us what she can, but unless Bryan Kohberger signs off, she's legally not allowed to talk about certain elements of his academic career. So just keep that in mind if there's some things that Dr. Ramsland can't answer. What was your perception of him?
He seemed like eager to be in the classroom. He was polite, he was respectful, intense, and curious. And there was no reason for me to think that he was anything other than someone who was really interested in this potential career.
Was there anything looking back now that was strange about him or that you noticed?
When I look back, there really isn't anything that stood out to me. I think when you're a teacher, your instinct is to accept students at face value. You don't, start with suspicions or, and there really weren't any red flags. He was always really quite respectful and grateful. He would thank me for things. He was attentive. He would do the work. I didn't have any concerns.
I think it was 4 classes that you taught him in. What were those classes?
there were 3 undergraduate courses in the forensic track that I taught, and he was in all of them. Well, one was forensic introduction to forensic psychology. Another was my death investigation class, which was called psychological sleuthing. And the third one was called Dangerous Minds, the psychology of antisocial behavior. And then he got into the graduate program in criminal justice for a master's degree. And he took a course with me called behavioral criminology.
And it makes me wonder if he didn't have these ideas prior to going to school. And that's why he chose that track, because he wanted to learn, in essence, how to get away with murder. But he, in this case, didn't get away with it.
Is there anything, Dr. Ramsland, when you look back and you think about the curriculum of those classes, and not getting into his specific experience, but when you think about what you taught in those classes, that you think, oh my gosh, he may have used that in what he's now accused of doing here in Idaho?
Well, the antisocial behavior course involves serial killers and mass murderers, and we do a lot of case analysis. I use two books that I wrote. One was written with the BTK killer, whom you just mentioned, and his decision process and the crimes and how he thought about them and felt about them and what was it like for him, to be caught. So that's a very intense book. And also I have one called The Mind of a Murderer, which was about various behavioral experts over the past century who interviewed killers, mass murderers, and serial killers to get as close as possible, spending a lot of time with them to get as close as possible to their process of becoming a criminal. And so he would have been exposed to that. I think now looking back, I would look at maybe some of the things that interested him as being, something that gives me pause. But we always have to think about, we all know, everyone in this field, forensic psychology and criminology, know that we could have students who might become offenders. But we also know that the vast majority of our students will not, and will instead go into a field like law enforcement, FBI, Secret Service, that make the world better, that protect us. So we know that there's always a risk that we're attracting somebody who wants to do something terrible. Hoping we won't ever have that, but in my case, I did.
Can you say, Dr. Ramsland, what it was looking back now that sort of raises your eyebrows specifically in terms of things in the class?
I think just the idea of wanting to study offenders. And
I was thinking, as she's talking, I was thinking, what would she have testified to? Like, is this what her testimony would be? Like, he took these classes. I didn't see any outward signs that he would do something like this. Was she more of a character witness? Like, thinking about it, how would she have any effect on it?
And what their thought process was, how they felt about their crimes, wanting to study that, and then finding out that this is a person who then is now saying he's guilty of doing these things. I have to look at the framework of what I taught and wonder, did I inspire him in some way? Did I, but I can't second guess that, because I may have inspired somebody else to become an FBI agent. And that's, unfortunately, in this field, that's what we live with.
I mean, you've been studying serial killers most of your life, but when you talk about the fact that what you taught may have inspired this, that's got to be hard for you to process, I would imagine.
It's terrible, very hard. And it's not just what happened to the victims. I really thought Bryan Kohberger was a promising student who really could have made a mark in this career, and in a very positive way. I thought that. So disappointed, angry, and very shocked that this is who he turned out to be, and horrified for the victims and their families. Just horrified. I mean, I worked with Dennis Rader closely for 5 years. I met the victims' families. I saw the devastation that these kinds of acts can have, and I have to always keep that in mind when I'm teaching these subjects.
What did you think when you first heard that Bryan Kohberger, your former student, was arrested for this?
That's a good point, Grandma Sherry. They could have expanded that crime scene paper with her testimony, proving that's what she taught him. I forgot about that. Where the questionnaire, he had the questionnaire that he had posted for offenders and, you know, wanting to learn more about them. And I forgot all about that. Very true, Team Britt. You'd be surprised what you learn in criminal justice. I know. I know. I wonder if she looks at her students differently now. I feel like, I don't know, I can't speak for her, but I feel like, because I feel most educators, you know, they're looking at the positivity they're going to bring, and then to learn that one of your students committed this horrific murder while in a criminal justice program under your study, I would be horrified. Absolutely horrified.
I was completely floored. I didn't believe it. And his demeanor that we saw on, on media was that he was confident that he was going to be able to prove his innocence. So I wanted to wait and see. I wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt. But as months go by and he kept saying that he had an alibi, and I wondered, well, why are you sitting in jail? Give us your alibi, get out. And that wasn't happening. And then it was really when he said his alibi, and it was clearly not an alibi, and he would have known that, certainly from all the classes that he had through undergraduate and graduate work.
That would have been a good question for testimony, because with all of this education that he had, your alibi is you were out looking at the stars, driving around. Like, come on, buddy.
He would have understood that wasn't really an alibi. I think that was when I was really, floored that this is my student who has done these things.
You mentioned, you studied BTK, the serial killer. You met with him many times in prison. This is what you do in a hope to prevent these things from further happening and understand the mind of a serial killer. Would you want to study Bryan Kohberger? Have you put any thought into that?
That's a good question.
Is that something that you think could be possible?
I've been thinking about that for 2.5 years. I would. This is my work. If he wanted to do that, I would. And within the framework of this is what we do to try to look at developmental trajectories, the triggers, so that we can see the red flags faster. We can prevent people like this from wreaking the havoc that they do. So if he wanted to do that, I know that he's got the intellectual capacity to do it, to be self-reflective, to help think through how his life came to this. And so I would definitely do it if he were willing. And it would be hard. But I think because I have so much material from him, I have questions for him that I think nobody else but me could ask.
Interesting.
And just my last question, Dr. Ramsland.
You know what? I hope she does get him to agree to speak with her, because maybe she would get the answers those families so desperately deserve.
You are the person that I think of who, if anyone could see through someone and see that they have a secret side, I would think it would be you, because this has been your life's work and trying to figure that out. And in a sense, it almost feels like Bryan Kohberger even had you fooled.
Well, I study the ones who are really good at it, because I want to truly try to understand what can we see in the constellation of behaviors that will tip us off earlier, because people who are really good at passing as normal and keeping their dark side hidden can fool people, can fool all the experts for a long period of time. I think anybody in my field will tell you they can be duped by a really skillful, predatory type of person. So, I'm not going to say I'm the person who can spot this. I can see things like if you have a rigid personality and you're threatening, those are red flags that are very clear, or you have a mental instability and you're drawing, violent images. These are things we can see and we can anticipate. But if somebody's presenting themselves as a completely normal human being engaged in life the way, that, according to our expectations, it's really hard to see through that. And as a teacher, I am not initially suspicious that students are there for the wrong reasons. And so I think some of us have what I would call a cognitive disadvantage because we are giving the benefit of the doubt to students. And I think that's certainly what happened. That's why I would want to work with him and study him, because I want to understand how he was able to completely fool me.
Well, it'll be interesting to see as this moves along, if that indeed ends up happening. Dr. Ramsland, appreciate you coming on tonight and sharing.
Very interesting. Very interesting. She does seem like a very kind, sweet woman, though. But let me tell, if she was able to get a hold of Bryan and get him to speak to her, that would be interesting. Yeah, Team Brett, he did. He got exactly what he wanted, to be a, quote, famous killer. Yeah. And the fact that he dragged this on for 2.5 years. Same, Grandma Sherry. These cases give me more respect for LE investigators. Well, I had just covered the trial of Barry Schmelbach, well, not the trial of Christopher Davis, who was just convicted of killing Barry Schmelbach. The amount of investigative work that went into that case, especially because Barry has never been found, was, the amount of information and video and receipts and just being able to put together that timeline of what happened was incredible to me. Just incredible. Team Brit says, I would like to study his brain for real. Yeah. Yeah, no empathy at all. Yeah, there we go, Grandma Sherry. You failed Ramsland. Epic fail. Yeah. Just some information. Yeah, you're right, Josh. Nobody knows what's going on in somebody's brain. And that's the scary thing. Well, even, towards the end of the year, I had a student who was very sullen, like very somber. And he's like, how can you guys be happy all the time? I said, listen, there's times that I come into work and there's stuff going on outside, but I can't let that affect what I do here. I said, there's times when I'm upset. There's times when, I'm feeling not happy, but that's being an adult. You have to just do it. And you have to do it not begrudgingly. Oh, did you, Josh? BTK, I was actually in Wichita. I was in Wichita when they nabbed him. Yeah, he got away with it for decades. And then he got arrogant. And that's how they found him. Team Brit says, I think BK would actually go for something like that since he wants to go down in history as a famous killer. Perhaps she can get him to give her information and he would be, quote, helpful in his mind. Very good. Yeah, the DoorDash driver. And I just think about that driver too. Like if she had been there a second later, or, that's scary. That's scary. A big, small man. I like that. Yeah. Like I said, the silent ones are the ones you got to worry about. Yep. That is right. All right, y'all. Well, thanks for being here. I didn't think I'd be on here for 1 hour and 45 minutes, but I do need to get moving because I have to feed my natives and then the kittens. I have to let them out to run for about an hour. So my live right now is scheduled for 4:30, but I think I'm going to move it to 4:45. So I'm just going to shift it 15 minutes for now, just so that I have a little more time to play with the kittens and then, gather them up. It's getting easier. It's getting easier to get them in the crate without them running back out. So It's so fun though. So thanks everybody for being here. If I don't see you later, I hope you have a great rest of your day. If you haven't liked this video, please do so on the way out. If you have watched this far, #replay. No outro today. So if I don't see you on my live later, I will see you all on the flip side.